Good morning and welcome to the educational webinar for the Domestic Materials Self-Certification Forum for Southeast States and FHWA staff. We'll cover the webinar agenda. First, we'll cover what is AASHTO product evaluation and audit solutions. We'll have an overview of the domestic materials requirements. We'll have an introduction to the forum. We'll have a presentation on how Georgia Department of Transportation plans to utilize the forum. We'll have a data mine walkthrough accessing completed forms. As a brief overview of the AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions program, this program evaluates products. This data is what states use to maintain their qualified producers lists or approved products list, QPLs and APLs. This technical service program is all inclusive. DOT staff from any part of your agency can be a member of a technical committee or access the data resulting from these product evaluations and audits. This is the only technical service program within AASHTO that offers a true partnership between state DOTs and industry, manufacturers and suppliers. Both parties contribute to the success of the program. More information regarding product evaluation audit solutions can be retrieved from transportation.org/product evaluation and audit solutions. Link below. Now we'll cover a brief introduction to the form itself. Here you'll find a snapshot of the form that is made available on our website, transportation.org/product evaluation audit solutions. You'll see at the top a description of the form and its intent. This certification is for a manufacturer supplier to certify the below articles, materials, or supplies are in compliance with the applicable domestic material content procurement preferences found in the Buy America Act requirements, 23 CFR 635.410, and the Build America, Buy America Act, BABA requirements 2 CFR Part 184. The individual completing this form takes full responsibility for the information included in the form. State agencies have the authority to request additional details related to the information provided in the form. All forms shall be submitted via AASHTO data mine for delivery to authorized governmental users through the industry document repository. The manufacturer/supplier is required to include updates to process changes within 10 days of the change occurring via uploading a revised form into Datamine. We'll cover the portions of uploading into Datamine later on in this webinar. You'll see in part 1 is company contact information, standard, field-based. Then in part 2, you will see details of the article, material, or supply. Using table 1 below, you would provide the classification of the article, material, or supply as one of the following: 1, iron or a steel product; 2, construction material; 3, manufactured product; or 4, excluded materials, including section 7917C materials. And you'll see field-based entry as the form permits, classification, a producer of the article, material, or supply, product, model, part, material, manufacturing address, other manufacturing details, other identifier information that would be applicable to the product identified in this form. And then on the right-hand side, you see the classifications as such. Please, I would advise you to acquire this form from transportation.org/product evaluation audit solutions. And then you'll see the part 3 declaration of submittal. And finally, part 4 certification. Any questions regarding the form, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A, and we'd be happy to answer them at the end of the webinar. Or you can feel free to email me directly. It's vglick@ashto.org. We'll also provide contact information at the end on a final slide of this webinar. Now I'd like to turn it over to Patrick Allen, Construction Division Director of Georgia Department of Transportation, to present on how Georgia Department of Transportation plans to utilize the form.
All right, good morning. Thanks, Vince, for the intro. Try to keep this short and sweet. I know Dave did a good job of kind of laying out how we got here and the buckets and everything. And I know people are anxious to get their questions answered. But from a GDOT perspective, again, going back to 2022, 2023, trying to figure this all out and where materials fit. We looked at the 3 buckets as Dave talked about and decided that we needed to identify our materials, categorize them, and come up with an approach, a simplistic approach to try to attack our QPLs and things like that, where we have about 109 QPLs. And Vince, you can go to the next slide. 108 QPLs, 9 different categories, represents about 3,000 different individual materials and items and things like that. So ticked off the easy ones first, things that were exempt, cement, cementitious materials, aggregates, and aggregate bonding agents, so hey, those are exempt, set them to the side. So that left us with a lot of the miscellaneous items. Those were plastic and non-ferrous metals and the list that Dave went through. Really looked at our pre-existing processes again for steel and iron. And then just before Baba came out, the utilities having to also verify that their materials were Buy America compliant, predominantly steel and iron products. So again, pre-existing processes, how can we break it down and make it as simple as possible for us to go through these over 3,000 items? So it started with outreach. We reached out to our manufacturers, coordinated with our legal team to make sure we had as many references to the code and the documentation that came out at the time. Make sure we were consistent and following the law and not necessarily trying to recreate any of the language that was created. So we developed a template letter, sent it to all of our producers on our qualified products list, or QPL. I asked them to identify whether products fell into construction materials or manufactured products. And then we also looked at our own list and tried to determine which buckets certain materials need to fall in. So again, that was 2023, that initial response. And then we decided to mirror our iron and steel process with an annual renewal, sort of a form that they submit every year, certifying that their materials are in fact Buy America compliant. So again, we just kind of duplicated that or replicated that process. So here's a screenshot of that letter that we sent. Again, we had a pretty good response initially. About 80% of our companies, manufacturers on our list responded, and we even outside of, at the time, it was construction materials focused, but we started getting information on manufactured products. So that helped us in anticipation for the waiver to be taken away from manufactured products. So we had a lot of good information initially, and highlighted in red, you'll see our annual guarantee form. That's really what came out of the process, and it looks a lot like the domestic products form that's been developed by the task force and produced or presented by AASHTO that Vince just went through. So again, this mirrors our process. We'll move away from our annual guarantee and use something that looks more like the AASHTO form that was developed. Again, it's a little bit more robust with the definitions and information for products. But again, we took a QPL-based approach. So contractors can acquire materials as listed on the QPL. That gets them the first step of the process, and then we'll trace that to the project level. And again, there will likely be one-off items that maybe we don't have a designation on the QPL, but again, we require they present that certification form and the backup documentation showing that the materials were indeed manufactured in the United States. So as I mentioned, our QPL list, we had that 80% initial response rate when we sent out our first communication, and then we added an additional column to our QPL list for that Buy America preference again, whether it was compliant, non-compliant, or exempt. And one of the sticks, so to speak, for our initial response was that if they didn't respond, they would be listed as non-compliant. And again, that I think that got the attention of a lot of manufacturers to make them go ahead and submit documentation to back up whether their materials were indeed compliant or even, in fact, non-compliant. And another thing that was helpful for companies that make a lot of different materials, again, we had a comprehensive lists of different things for those certain companies. So that made it a little bit easier to tick off as many of those 3,000 plus items that we could, in a simpler fashion. So. What this boils down to is, again, we've taken the QPL approach. We'll use domestic form to certify or have the company self-certify that their materials are produced or manufactured in the United States. And that's kind of the quick snapshot into how Georgia plans on using the form.
Thank you, Patrick. Some great insight and valuable information. Now we'll move to the data mine walkthrough for accessing completed forms. This will also include how to access the blank form on the transportation.org website. Please stand by as I pull this up. Okay. By navigating to transportation.org/product evaluation odd solutions, as you can see up here in the top URL, right on the landing page, you'll see the domestic materials self-certification form. You can either click on the image or you can click on this link on the right-hand side. Click on the image, it'll take me to another page, the place where you can either download the form itself by clicking on this image, or you can click on this link to download the form itself. Along with this, we've provided several walkthroughs. There is an industry user guide walkthrough as well as a state user guide walkthrough. We will review the state user guide walkthrough for data mines, document repository navigation. And also for industry, there is a fee schedule available. This link will provide them with the fees associated with uploading documentation into Datamine for those users that are not currently participating in technical committee programs. For users that that have products participating in technical committee programs, it will not be required to pay a fee for their products that have Buy America form of domestic materials self-certification forms uploaded for them. At the very bottom, you'll see the FHWA construction program guide link that was also mentioned previously in this webinar. Now we'll cover the industry document repository. As a quick overview of registration, I know many of you online do have a registration with our Datamine platform. But for those that do not have access to Datamine, we'll have a brief overview of registration. To register in Datamine, you'll navigate to datamine.transportation.org and you'll click the login/register link at the top right corner. Then you'll click register now on the left side. You'll enter your email address and click next. You'll fill out all the required fields, select state under account type, select State Department of Transportation under industry sector, and technical committee selection is not required. If you are seeking to only have access to the industry document repository, you're not required to select a technical committee during user registration. Now we'll cover the industry document repository navigation for Build America, Buy America, BABA Act documentation navigation. First, you'll sign into Datamine at datamine.transportation.org/account/login. Then you'll navigate to the industry document repository. You'll see it on the left-hand side, right next to UP3, also known as Upcubed, and it's also next to traffic safety. Click on Industry Document Repository, the IDR. Will take you to a navigation dashboard. Here, for ease of access, to access all Build America, Buy America documentation that's been tagged with Build America, Buy America Act, you can type in simply build into the categories and tags column filter, and it will filter down all respective products that have documentation associated with that categorical tag. Furthermore, you could filter down by manufacturer, product name, manufacturer location, document title, and the update date. There are also advanced filters available on the left-hand side. If you're seeking to download an individual document, you'll see under the actions column that you can download an individual document per line item right there. If you're seeking to download multiple documents from multiple line items, you can select those line items individually and click Download Selected on the right-hand side. Or if you filtered down to specific documents for a specific manufacturer and you want to download all of those documents within the current view, you can click Download All and it will provide a zip file with all those documents. You'll see under product classification that all the classifications included in the domestic materials self-certification form are also included in line with those product categories that correspond with Datamine modules themselves. Finally, we do have advanced search parameters available, as mentioned previously. By clicking on those advanced filters, a dialog box will show up and provide more technical committee specific filters, along with such items as lot and heat number, if those are available for the documents that are uploaded against respective products.